Hello everyone and welcome to the L.T.L. Tutoring Central video series. And this week I'm talking about too many notes. Help! Well, for a lot of students, taking notes is a chore and they take too few notes. They don't take enough notes. But for some students, they take far too many notes. And then they have difficulty studying from those notes because there's so many, they might as well just read the textbook over again or the novels over again. And also they often don't understand their notes. And it's not only because there's too many, but because they didn't understand in the first place. And I'm going to explain why. I'm also going to explain how to reduce the number of notes you take to take quality notes, not just quantity. So you don't want to take too few, but you don't want to take too many either. So if you're going into a lecture and you're taking notes from a lecture, first of all, make sure that you are prepared. So if there was some reading material ahead of time or something you were supposed to watch or listen to ahead of time, make sure you've done that because then you're going in warm instead of cold. In other words, when the teacher or professor begins to speak, you will already have a little bit of information and connection to the material, and therefore you will be able to understand it more fully as the teacher presents the information. And then take your time, listen for a while, and try to understand the main themes and concepts before you start taking notes. Sometimes everything the teacher says seems to be very, very important, except maybe their holiday stories or they're talking about their cat. But other than that, everything sounds important when you first hear it. But not every single sentence needs to be noted. You need to listen longer and wait until you start understanding the concepts. Then you start taking notes. Of course, if there's a fact or a statistic, you can make a brief note of that. But on the whole, you want to be listening first, taking notes a little later. You don't wait to the very end because then you will forget, especially if it's an hour-long lecture or more. You do need to take notes within, but you need to wait for a little while. And that also applies with reading. If you're taking notes from a textbook or from online text or some other format, even from movies, podcasts, whatever, you want to read a substantial amount or listen for a while before you begin taking notes. And if you're reading text, make sure you preview the text first. Look at the headings, subheadings, graphics, any bits of information that just warms you up, just like going into the lecture warm. Then when you do the close read or the thorough read, you are going to understand so much more. You'll have more connections. You'll be warmed up for the exercise of reading. And then you will be able to determine which parts are important and which parts are not. You don't want to simply copy the entire text or just leave out a few words. I've seen students do that and say, well, I didn't copy everything. Well, no, but you've copied almost everything. So this is not helpful. You end up with far too many notes, and they're not very useful for studying. The whole idea of the notes is to help you understand the concepts, themes, and information, and then to reduce the volume of information that you will need to reread, hopefully several times. Look at some of my other blogs and videos about study tips and also about reading. SQ3R system is a good method to use. I did a video recently about that, so you can look back to some of those that will help also. The other thing you can do is listen for key terms, either in the lecture or when you're reading. Look for key terms like, finally, as a consequence, the result was. Things like this. Keywords and phrases indicate something important is coming up. So you want to pay special attention to that piece of information. Those are some basic tips on how to take quality notes. You want to get the most important information, the most salient information, and you want to make connections. You want to understand it. It's no good taking notes if you don't understand what you're writing down. And often you think, later I'll understand it, later I'll get it. Well, sometimes that happens to some extent. But if you've taken too many, it's not going to happen because you're paying so much attention to just writing that you're not paying attention to what's actually happening. And you're not actually thinking. And later it's not necessarily going to make any more sense than it did the first time. But when you review your quality notes, now it's going to really work because you've understood it the first time. The second time, you're going to probably get even more from it because you have more lectures, more text under your belt, and it will all start to come together for you. Of course, you can also use diagrams and pictures either at the moment or later when you're redoing notes or adding to notes, I should say. You can draw a diagram or pictures, charts, things like that can help you understand the material. It can make it shorter because it's, you know, sort of look at the diagram and get everything all at once. And it also helps with retention because it's another sort of learning modality or whatever, and that can help you to remember the information longer. So that's another little tip to help you take more quality notes rather than just tons and tons of notes that you really don't need, don't want to review, or won't have time to review, and don't even understand when you do. I hope this has been very helpful. I'm sure it will be if you follow through. If you need more study tips or strategies, or you need a program to help you or your child, make sure to get in touch with www.tutoringcentral.com. You can email me. You can also ask questions here underneath. If you're watching on YouTube, you can ask questions. Don't forget to like the video, subscribe to the channel, look at a few of the past videos, or go to the website and read some of the blogs. The videos and blogs are connected, so there's a lot of similar information, but sometimes there's a bit of difference as well. I'll put a link to the website below. In the meantime, have fun learning and have fun taking notes. Remember, if you're learning, if you're gaining something from it, it will mean so much more to you, and you will remember it longer, and it won't be such a chore. Ron Johnson from L.T.L. Tutoring Central. I'll see you again. Bye-bye.